Right, it's time. It's time to utter those words we were afraid to say, but sort of suspected all along for fear of being ridiculed. As good as Erling Haaland is, there's a strong argument that he's made Manchester City worse as a team. Not enough was made of the extraordinary tactical gamble that Pep Guardiola took last summer, when he signed a man whose straight-lined approach is an act of defiance against the very principles of Man City. Plunking a transition-centric penalty box striker into a false nine-loving team of possession, domination was always going to require something radical. So far, both player and team are weaker than they were last season, and Guardiola, by his standards, is in tactical crisis. The goals are flowing, but that does not automatically mean Haaland is adding value. His 1.37 goals per game average eclipses anything he achieved at Borussia Dortmund, but Man City are scoring no better, recording the same tally 53 after 21 Premier League games as last campaign. So, we cannot simply take his goals in isolation and call Haaland a success. It was assumed Haaland would adapt to City's tactical style, but surprisingly, he is even less involved outside the box at City than he was at Dortmund. Comparing this season to last, his attempted passes per game is down from 11.7 to 15.6. His average number of touches is down from 33.1 to 24.2, and his progressive carries per game are down by almost half, from 1.89 to 1.04. He is doing less and in a smaller area too. A remarkable 21% of his touches are in the central area of the opposition box, which is almost double the 12% he recorded at Dortmund last season, and a scarcely believable increase on the highest percentage recorded by a Man City player last season. Raheem Sterling and Gabriel Jesus were joint first, with 5%. That final shift, Haaland's 12% to the previous high of 5%, shows just how different it feels to have the Norwegian up front, compared to one of Guardiola's false nines. Understandably, it has caused a headache and led to a dramatic change in how the Man City manager sets his team up to play, with so far negative consequences on their attacking and defensive strategies. Starting with the attacking side of things, Guardiola decided that the introduction of a rapid line-breaking striker in the middle meant sacrificing this option from the flanks. The sale of Sterling to Chelsea in the summer left him without an urgent, bustling, make-things-happen energy on the wing for the first time in his managerial career. From David Villa to Arjen Robben to Leroy Sane to Sterling, his teams have always needed that quality out wide. Guardiola hates being accused of playing tiki-taka, yet by withdrawing penetration from the white areas, Man City have begun to sink towards the slow and rhythmic possession, recycling he has always rejected. His tactics require an element that rubs up against the meticulous passing structures to offer a sudden, tearing point of difference, but with Jack Grealish and Riyad Mahrez either side of Haaland, this has been lost. With it has gone the driving run to the byline for a pullback, or the option for a switch of play that catches out a defensive shell, dragged over to one side. Also out the window is City's unpredictability, leaving instead a host of between-the-lines playmakers, dancing around a static Haaland, all of them facing an opposition blockade. The difference is subtle, of course. On many metrics Man City are performing just as well as last season, and, most of the time, they get the job done. But when faced with a low block they miss those piercing wingers and Haaland, crowded out, cannot make up the difference in a congested penalty area. The numbers back this up. Man City's sprints per game are down from 130.1 last season to 120.4 in 2022, while their progressive carries per 90 are down from 30.1 to 20.5, a 33% drop. Their number of take-ons per game is also down, from 19.5 to 16.9, while their carries into the penalty area have dipped by 30%, from 10.2 to 7.6 per 90. Haaland's presence is a double whammy in this regard. Not only is he slowing City down, and therefore allowing opponents to sit deeper without fear of being prized apart, but his very reputation on the shoulder of the last defender encourages fearful teams to retreat into a lower block. A vicious cycle is created, and City end up passing and moving slowly with 11 bodies in front of them. No wonder their crossing has increased from 16.0 to 21.5 per match. No wonder even Manchester United and Liverpool concede territory at home against Man City, recording 29% and 37% possession respectively in the Premier League. The emerging constipation in Man City's attack wouldn't be a problem if their defense was as good as last season, but it isn't. They are averaging 1.0 goals per game against, up from 0.68 in 2022. And again, that can be attributed at least partly to Haaland's appearance in the starting 11. It all comes down to Man City's counter-press, the pressure they apply after losing the ball, and its waning effectiveness. Because once the first wave of pressing has been bypassed, opponents generally find it easy to counter-attack into wide-open spaces against City's high line. That is always the risk of such bold and expressive football. But whereas historically Guardiola has judged it right, this season the initial counter-press is letting him down. The issue is twofold. First, although Haaland is no slouch, he presses almost exclusively high up the pitch. Hence why he tops the Premier League charts for pressures in the final third, with 256. Never being in the position that a false nine would be in means never helping the midfield line, should the ball be lost here, and that crucial though slight positional shift, explains Man City's pressing statistics. To summarize the table below, Man City's number of pressures has decreased considerably this season, reflecting a weakening counter-press and increased opposition breakaways, while the weighting of these in the three-thirds has changed markedly. This season, 43.8% of their pressures are in the final third, compared to just 31.6% the year before. The middle third, one man lighter, is now a more vulnerable area. There is a second, perhaps more important, reason for these numbers. In an attempt to counteract Haaland's lack of movement into deeper areas of the field, Guardiola has increasingly instructed his midfield players to move higher, to give him close support, which in turn is emptying out that central midfield area. This again, subtle movement is best highlighted in Guardiola's changing preferences in personnel. The more cautious Ilkay Gundogan and Calvin Phillips have struggled for minutes, even allowing for injuries, while recently forward Julian Alvarez has been drafted in as an attacking midfielder. The impact of this weakening counter-press is borne out in the numbers. City's passes allowed per defensive action has risen from 10.3 to 11.7 this season, and their field tilt is down from 79.7% to 75.2%. Their number of progressive passes allowed per 90 has risen from 19.9 to 22.2, as has the progressive carries allowed, from 10.3 to 11.4. Looking at less advanced data, their through balls allowed has almost doubled, from 0.76 to 1.32, while their total shots allowed is up from 6.2 to 7.5. Erling Haaland is the best player in the world right now, and he has transformed Manchester City from a great team into one that is capable of blowing everyone else away this season. Just ask Manchester United, beaten 6-3 at the Etihad on Sunday, following another Haaland hat-trick. Phil Foden also scored a hat-trick on a remarkable day for Pep Guardiola's team. But the star of the show once again was Haaland, the £51 million summer signing from Borussia Dortmund, who is rampaging through Premier League defenses, like a teenager playing against 9-year-olds. Haaland, 22, has 14 goals in the Premier League this season, more goals than 14 other teams in the league, and 17 goals in 11 games across all competitions for City. That includes hat-tricks in successive home games against Crystal Palace, Nottingham Forest and now United. Just to underscore how much of an impact Haaland has made so far in a City shirt, he can now claim to have scored as many career Premier League hat-tricks, 3, as Cristiano Ronaldo. Haaland has pulled level with the United forward after just 8 games. Michael Owen had been the quickest player to score 3 Premier League hat-tricks. He took 48 games for Liverpool to bag his third. So Haaland is simply obliterating records that had been expected to stand for decades. There was something poignant about the fact that Ronaldo spent the full 90 minutes on the United substitutes bench as Haaland tore his team apart. Ronaldo has been at the summit of the world game for more than a decade, sharing the billing as the world's best player with Lionel Messi throughout that period. But the 37-year-old will now know that the baton has firmly passed to Haaland. After watching him up close at the Etihad, Erling Haaland would finish the season on 102 goals in all club competitions if he sustains his strike rate, game time and reaches all finals. But how is the Norwegian achieving his record-breaking returns? Applying that same ratio based on his strike rate in the Premier League and Champions League this term, the Norwegian would hit a mind-boggling 113 goals if he played every minute. Haaland, who scored an outrageous winner against former club Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League on Wednesday, now tops the goal chart in that competition, with 3 goals in 2 games, level with Kylian Mbappe and Robert Lewandowski. In the Premier League, the 22-year-old has netted 10 goals from just 6 Premier League games, and has also been substituted early in all but one of those to miss 55 minutes, netting back-to-back hat-tricks during wins over Crystal Palace and Nottingham Forest at the Etihad. Those numbers produce a staggering League ratio of 1.86 goals per game, more potent than any other player in Europe's top 5 leagues this season, to have played in excess of 108 minutes. In the Premier League, the 22-year-old has netted 10 goals from just 6 Premier League games, and has also been substituted early in all but one of those to miss 55 minutes, netting back-to-back hat-tricks during wins over Crystal Palace and Nottingham Forest at the Etihad. Some critics might claim that any established forward would convert bags of goals in Pep Guardiola's side, based on the sheer quantity of clear-cut chances they create. In terms of passing, Haaland tends to drift and combine with teammates across the width of the penalty box, with a slightly higher concentration of exchanges down left of center areas, while creating his most potent chances from central areas just outside the box. Unlike Haaland's explosive start at the Etihad, City have traditionally started seasons slowly, and this season is no exception, after dropping points at Newcastle and Villa Park. But there are signs Guardiola's side have tweaked their style slightly. The graphic below shows how Haaland averages in a similar position to the false nine last term, although this is based on his limited touches, and suggests Kevin De Bruyne and Phil Foden are pushing slightly higher this term. In terms of raw attacking numbers, City taken their goals per game ratio to new heights, currently averaging at 3.3 per game, nearly 1 goal more than last campaign. However, almost all other key metrics are down: expected goals and shots on target, which emphasizes how Haaland's prolific form has propped up dips in build-up play. Interestingly, City are also firing almost an identical number of crosses per game as last season, in addition to matching their attempted through balls, two metrics many might expect to increase to accommodate and serve Haaland. The one thing I would say is Haaland's career at City will probably prolong his overall career, because he's just standing there. The way Manchester City play, with that possession that they keep, you never really see him stretching teams, other than when they get 1 or 2 in front. I just have to say that I'm massively impressed with him. It's the first time we've signed what I believe to be one of the top 2 or 3 players in the world for the future. Ordinarily, those players go to Paris Saint-Germain, Real Madrid or Barcelona. Cristiano Ronaldo, when he became the best player in the world here at Manchester United, or maybe Thierry Henry at Arsenal, they didn't sign as prospects to be the best player in the world. They just developed to being that when they were here. But this player, you fully anticipate he's going to go on and win Ballon d'Ors and be the best player in the world. That's exciting. That's not happened for quite a while in the Premier League.